their lives or they lost lives of family members. Those are the people that I think deserve this money. So Delegate Freeland, you know, you're saying that your intent was to focus on your chapter employees and your, you know, the people in your Crown Point area. Again, you know, that's great. Thank you for thinking about your community. But as delegates, we have to think about all of our Navajo people. And, you know, I just feel like this legislation has been rushed because you're telling me that the intent was to focus on those who are hourly employees and those who are boots on the ground. If that's true, then why does your justification form have political at-will employees 83 times 1,500 at 124,500? Why does your justification form have 14 judges at $1,500, 21,000? I understand the temporary workers. I agree with that. I understand the regular status employees. I understand, you know, the certified chapters. But as delegates, when we drop legislation, we have to read through our legislation and make sure that we totally understand that the legislation has been written correctly with the intent that we have in mind. So if your intent was to focus on the boots on the ground who are hourly employees, then I think that this legislation either needs to be tabled so that we can get the right information, or it needs to be amended to exclude those political at-will employees and the judges from this listing. And I would even go as far as saying anybody who has already received over $2,000 in special duty pay or hazard pay. Because I think Delegate Freeland, I think if my notes are correct here, you said that some of the chapter employees only received $200. I'm in favor of giving chapter employees, certified chapter employees who were open, who were delivering food, who were taking it, you know, to the people who really needed it. I'm in favor of giving them those funds. What I'm not in favor of is giving more funds to people who have already benefited from special duty pay and hazard pay when they should have never received it from the very beginning. So I will be sending an email, Dana, I hope you're listening. I will be sending an email to your to Legislative Council amending this legislation and making it very clear that we, number one, this is the large amount of money. And what I'm worried about is you're going to have your directors and your supervisors, those who know the system, who are going to be taking advantage of this, and then we're going to be right back where we're at right now. And that is hearing from our boots on the ground telling us that they never received those funding. So I think we need to look at this legislation, colleagues. We need to be very specific in who this funding, this reward, and that's the key word here, is it's a reward. It's a appreciation reward. We need to make sure that those who truly deserve it are getting it. So I think, in my opinion, colleagues, I'm going to ask that when this legislation gets to council, that we table this legislation and that we amend it with proper language and that we ask the right questions. And as Delegate Crotty stated, that the right documents are in place before it proceeds forward. Because right now, we're shooting at the hip and we're putting everybody in one lump sum and saying everybody's going to get $1,500 when we shouldn't be doing that. So, and again, Delegate Freeland, I totally understand, you know, with your, you know, what your intent was here. But I'm a little bit worried because, you know, you even stated it that, you know, it kind of, that you just want to take care of your Crown Point employees. But the problem with this legislation is it affects the entire Navajo Nation. It affects the Navajo Nation employees, and it also affects the Navajo people because this is their money. And if they start asking me where that money is going, I need to have an answer. And at this point, looking at the budget forms, looking at the justification, looking at the legislation, I can't tell you who is going to be receiving funding. And I sure as heck don't want to get caught up in, hearing from the food distribution warehouse employees saying that they never got those fundings, but they might be concerned that their supervisors or their directors have. So with that, Speaker Damon, I think I'm done with my comments at this point, but I still am looking for that legislation regarding the special duty pay and the hazard pay. I think that was actually the special budget session that we had back in February of last year. That's the one, I believe, Speaker Damon, where Washington, D.C. office try to put that $100,000 renovation cost into the budget on page like 98 of the budget. Again, I'm going off of memory here and I'm not looking at my notes, but I believe it was within that legislation that we did argue with Department of Justice on whether the Department of Justice attorneys were, whether they should have received that 5% hazard pay. But if I can get clarification on that, Speaker, if your staff can help me on that. Thank you, Speaker. And colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question back to the Speaker's office is that we are working with Office Legislative Council right now to clarify what the legislation is. With that, colleagues.
So put me in the queue.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I can go ahead and turn the floor over to you as at this time. Chairman Daniel So.
Thank you, Cecilia. I was still on mute, but I'm off mute. Akiyat Cecilia, Ado Sanantay, members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, legislative staff, Ado Sache, Honorable Mark Freeland, Ado, all the folks on the call. You know what? Our personnel pay scale isn't one boot fits all. And somehow this legislation really, it doesn't fit all. It should fit those that were really on the front line and not those that work remotely and still was considered for special duty or hazard pay. And I want to reinforce what the other Honorable Charles Newton said. We do get letters. There was one individual that posted pictures of where she had to have her desk surrounded by shower curtains. And if you buy shower curtains and you at home, you know those things emit a foul odor. And if you don't put it in the washing machine, that odor pervades throughout the house. And in this case, this employee got sick from it. And there's a supervisor that won't let that case go forward. So, yes, pain and agony have been imposed on our employees, certain ones. And for me, for all of a sudden to have DPM and personnel management come and support this legislation. With a few months before a vote. And even earlier today, all the positive talk about let's do a pay raise. That just doesn't fit. Number one, this 1,500, depending on income level, they'll be taxed for it. And the full amount won't go to them. Whereas the CARES Act hardship and the ARPA hardship, they were non-taxable. So that's a consideration. The other is earlier this week, acting OOC stated that we had people from the U.S. Treasury on site, looking and listening, and more than likely getting the first look at possible audit questions, audit exceptions. And with our discussion over this particular legislation, we as the council, we as the administration have just opened the books on them and says, look here, look there. You know that before any audit happens, you have an audit meeting and they explain the procedures and then they go around interviewing. Do you have any concerns? And that gives them a lead on where to be looking. And right now, this is what we've done. So in that aspect, thought about an amendment. Those personnel that didn't get hazard pay, that didn't get special duty pay, those that were hourly at the chapter, those where it can be verified we had personnel on the front lines, being there at the chapter house every day, handing out PPE, food, and other special items. Those would be qualifications. So for this to be really re-looked at, I think we at the HES committee expressed concerns about it. But since we weren't the final authority, it moved forward. But I feel like the concerns that the HES committee had is valid, and I think it needs more work rather than trying to rush it. That would be my thoughts, committee members. Whether it be referred to a work session would be appropriate. I would vote green for that particular aspect. Without a quaggy. So beta na hodit ay quag ni dasal soli without a bahasti toli. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Any other further comments or questions, colleagues? Again, legislation.
This is Doug Gay. Speaker.
Legislation 0076-22. This goes on to council.
Speaker, can I respond before you go to Delegate Begay?
Yeah, I can go too.
Okay, thank you.
Are you sure?
Speaker. Yeah. Before we go to Honorable Begay, because
Okay.
Honorable Charles Noon and
Honorable Freeland, go ahead. Your floor is yours as
thank you, Speaker.
sponsor, and then I'll go to Honorable Begay. You'll be next after Honorable Freeland's response.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Good evening again, Anna. As far as just responding to both Honorable Charles Newton and Honorable So together, pretty much kind of pointed out the factors, of course, related to the equity piece, and I had explained that already. As far as tabling or a work session, that's definitely your prerogative, but just keep in mind the delicacy of the morale and what we're facing as well. And I say that with respect to the staff. We have staff that are really dealing with a lot right now. And we really need to remind ourselves of that. If we table it, if we go to a work session that's further delay, we're going to be stalling it, and we're going to be hurting morale even more. And, the staff they know about this legislation. And I've been contacted by a lot of staff already. And staff have reached out expressing their gratitude. And they have told me what they have gone through. They have expressed, the same stories that were explained by my colleagues as well. I use Crown Point as an example. I use Crown Point as the agency hub of one of 5 agencies as the example. I know I had to cover the 5 agencies entirely, and that's what we did, including all the 110 or the 102 other chapters aside from my 8. I went around here in this community and checked on staff. They were there. I heard from my chapter staff as well. I heard from other chapter staff as well. The delicacy of the morale is something we really need to take into consideration, colleagues. And that's a very delicate matter right now. If we further delay, or if we look at tabling, like I said, that's going to be your prerogative. If you want to look at an amendment, that's also your prerogative. But I just want you to take in consideration what the staff is, what they've dealt with, what they saw. And this is not a special duty. This is not a hazard pay. This is an incentive for thanking them. So I really want us to think of it from that perspective as well. We can call it whatever we want, but we have to be reminded that, the staff were the reasons why they helped out our people. And just like my colleagues had mentioned, Daltex, the drivers, cook supervisors, CXRs, food distribution, social services, Department of Health staff, special diabetes, health education, ASC. We could go on and on and on. But like I said, I tried going through a 3-tier system, but that was going to be too hard to comprehend and work out the data. We just don't have the capacity to separate each of them. And that's why I just went ahead and said, let's just do a one, I don't want to call it a one boot fits all, but a one size fits all concept, just to pay it out to everyone. That's why. And I did get some response back from those who initially had approached me about concerns with their hazard pay, and they said they were good with it too. So hence, that's why I went forth with it. Colleagues, just to respond to my Honorable Che and my younger sister, Honorable Charles Newton, this evening. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I don't know if Ms. Toddy's back on as well.
Mr. Speaker, this is Rafisa Toddy.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Toddy, I don't know if you heard earlier a question about the budget, how it was developed, or how we came up with the numbers. Would you be able to explain that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Toddy.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Honorable Speaker and members of the committee. In the response to how the budget was prepared, as Delegate Freeland indicated, that there was the tier system that was discussed. However, the challenge was compiling all the data, and the other was, so the recommendation was just to go with one rate, which was a lump sum payment of $1,500. And there was no other criteria as far as who would be included, whether or not the political appointees would be excluded, or department managers being excluded. So based on the information that was given to me, which was just the number of employees, I went ahead and extracted that information for the legislative and executive branch, as well as the judicial branch. And earlier I did report that in coordination with the Division of Community Development, the Administrative Service Center's Department Manager, Samantha Jim Martin, she was able to provide the information for the certified chapters as well as the PEP workers. So that was how the budget was prepared. Thank you.
That, Honorable Freeland, does that conclude your response?
Yeah, Speaker does. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going down. Honorable Elmer Brigade, good evening. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Wade, Speaker. I don't know the members of Naabik'íyáti. I don't know Cecilia, Mark Freeland, Delegate Yate, Kado Yate Yaeda, I don't Ms. Toddy, Yate, on this legislation about this case ago. And we all know that this is undesignated, unreserved funding. This candidate, no, that's the money that we're talking about. It based on non-tahaki, that we all know that that revenue that comes every quarter now based on non-tahako, and the resources that we have. Very fortunate that we have a homeland. Yeah, I don't think that it's very fortunate that we have the resources that we have. If it's out of base of very fortunate people. They were just long. How do you know this? You know that so there's no I don't know this on. In the occasion, they went Fort Sumner, Hodiero, West of Hodiana State. I don't know if they know to think that they know that they never gave up on this land. At the time, so they have one faith and one belief. So because they got they best up. That's what we are requesting. Should say that. Think about it. It's people's money. We just had it, that's mentioned the early part of the morning, regarding the introduction and then recognition. 2 days ago, we had water rights ceremonies. We told them what we have again at ceremonies. There was a lot of traditional come down to where time immemorial. No, the time, the beginning of this, the creation, cracking. We'll go back to that. Fortunately, we have some knowledge holders that we still have. They don't want that down. There are a lot of good words and reminded us a lot. So, I just want to mention that again. You know that that was reminded back to us. Very fortunate that became a government with that money. So very fortunate that these people that were hired, that have their own benefits. They have sick leave, annual leave, and with a lot of benefits. They have their own office. Then there's a switch there where you can control. Where like it's going desk all day, you put turn on the heater. This do cooler on Naabik'íyáti. Think about it. There's people out there, Navajo people. They're not fortunate like that. AD the best also. So where are we at? Where are we coming from? We think about these people. We came into this office. What we're thinking of. Where do we put the line here? One thing is a lot of them knowledge holders left today. I would say that again, that that I mentioned that one of my aunties, Sarah John, she had COVID and she doesn't remember all the songs now. Every day I'm going down the Hudlin. Even though I got all these my vaccinations, but my memory could. I know you had that. How do we help them? Asia. They're still holding on to that. There's no money in that. There's no benefits in it. Once they leave, it's going to be gone. There's no fortunate, and it's just left with this. So think about it. I don't want us to really think that way. Is this because of the election that's coming in to be popular? And that's what people are telling us. So think about it. Where do we draw the line of this? Where this money is coming from? Think about it. I just wanted to express my concern for the people that are out there, my people. They electric in the bed, the water bed, I think. They only have this free phone, government phone. We all have iPhones. The one that we're talking about, they have iPhones. They got it from the Navajo Nation. They have iPads. They have computers. There's a balance in the between that equal. Think about it, silly. Hey, so I need Albany, Lady Craigie. The money that's available here, or she, or net, the start of Nagit, and I said, Panisovsky, the scene that here. Yeah, but so the scheduled, I think that's Yago. It became available now. So, I just want to express that again, Speaker. So, think about it. The people that are really in need today. We just got our hardship funds. I don't know federal debt fund. No. I just want to say that much, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Brigay. That, colleagues, any other further comments or questions?
Speaker Wanika.
Good evening, Honorable Winika. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker, and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. They need, I appreciate what Honorable Delegate Brigade said. She took out Aban's case. Hit out Aban's case. Niheyo ni given na say nahoti handleo it kaije even na say here he did no she hita ko sada ni hutan hiya ho do you need and so Ivan's case and in addition ni ge ya hata the ne but nahoti handleo hata the ni taho do chonwas ka nature is an Khadashin Bayo ni Nashi Hitiho, so then lazy ye Hadika. Babichin that no shot aid or neither. Oh, ya hitans and he wins and they ain't over nate either. Nikayo, Minachi, Kaija. Adia, it seems that it's becoming secondary. The Kobachin that all the eight with the Hanenge, Oidos space either. The Kodani in the Asia, Kodo, Delgate Brigade, Hatzigita, stimulus other Washington, everybody got paid. I don't want the hardship not kiddies, Kena Delia. So I would need there was a provision put in place, special duty pay. No, because Hajobe Nash Nashwe, General area, don't to the Hajobe Nash Nash. Could I have large but not at all is not that it did you to Hojo by 8 that store? I guess it's not really a good campaign legislation. Because quite a should this did I need Hashin so on that and hit this target. Oh, you employees is quite even now. As here I should be I said, here, the other face as the H. What else you hate at on sort of this case? I caught on a yego, the EJ. I remember there was people that were hauling woods. They came to me and says, is anybody need wood? That's a song. Where can we get a listing? So I took them over to the command center, and they were able to get a whole bunch of names where they can haul wood. There was 2 water tanks, and they told me we hauling water for people. Do you know who else needs water? That's just no. I did the same thing. I took them to referred them to the command post, and other chapter and I really commend the chapter official. the two chapters that I have, the officials, the ye go yabanan should the yila. Beyond Hadi the Jan lead Nate. The Quran, they asked for unsort of gas or youth, no. The other was so that's case out in that about so that's case in the that the speaker told us as far as elected official the bubble on that sound. The quit in that all has out a condition a he who in the they appreciate the help that they provided. Although I know one program, I work with the speaker's office, and I hope they got their special pay. The election office. Right during the pandemic, there was an election, chapter officers election, and they had no choice but to come into the office and take applications from the candidates that were running for chapter officials and school board and all that, because they had no choice but to come in. And they asked for special duty pay, and I was checking on it, and the speaker staff said they was going through, but I don't know if they got paid the quite there's certain programs like that. I don't know that they were in the front lines in the other benajinsta, other job in the shilmista. I think it's best just to vote this down, even at the council. But if there's anything that's going to be provided to the people, I think it should be the chapter staff and certain programs that we know without question that were at the front lines, and they had to be there. It was mandated that they had to be there, like the chapter, like the election staff had to be. So, I say, khasi thio they at to khansi case go shaban's case ya yo nebe na ka ije he told us that do chon. I think a lot of us end up to some extent realigning our lives to be more spiritual. The spiritual side, we don't talk about money. It's just the love that we have for one another, for our people. To me, that's very important. Thank you.
Speaker, this is Daniel. Put me in the queue.
Speaker, can I respond?
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Freeland, I was going to go to you next to respond, and then I'm going back to the floor because I have a couple more of your colleagues in the queue. Honorable Freeland, floor is yours.
Okay, Speaker, you sound tired. I hope you're doing okay. Drink a cup of coffee. All right. Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Elmer Begay, Honorable Edison Monica, thank you for your concerns as well. Speaker, in regards to the legislation as well, it's my understanding that the legislation does have a title, and this legislation was dropped a long time prior to establishment of the candidacies. So to call it a campaign mechanism is not correct. I don't want to say that, but that's something that, is in the back of my mind. This intent was to give our employees an incentive, a rewards incentive. I could care less about campaigning or using this as a campaign mechanism. That's not why I dropped this legislation. I dropped this legislation because I saw with my own eyes the staff that were out here in this agency, the staff that were working prior to the vaccinations, the staff that were working in Window Rock at the speaker's office, the staff that were working, the staff that were deemed essential. And that's why I dropped this legislation, Speaker. To call it a campaign mechanism is not correct. And I have to really disagree with those statements, because if it was a campaign mechanism, maybe I would have dropped it last week. this is several months in the working. So I really have to say I disagree with those comments by my colleagues in relation to a campaign mechanism. And, yes, as delegates, we can drop any legislation as we wish to. And, this concept came from employees directly, which I heard from. This idea came from them, not from me. It came from them. So I really want us to understand why this was done. And this was done a few months in the past, and we're finally getting to this stage, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because, it's like we're hearing everything's coming out now, which is fine, but all we care about is taking care of our employees, taking care of their mental health, taking care of their well-being. Think of how much gas prices are right now. Think of how much diesel is with $6 a gallon. Think how much baby formula is right now. Think how much a carton of eggs costs right now. And think of those employees having to pay out those types of things. Think of everyone that has to pay out for those things. So, I have to say that much because it's not a way to strike a campaign discussion or start that discussion. That's the last thing from my mind when I did this legislation. So I want to say that much, Speaker, and maybe we need to reread the title again to remind ourselves of what's the true intent of this legislation. It's to give rewards to our staff. So thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Freeland. Good evening, everyone. If you're joining us, we are on legislation 0077-22, sponsored by Honorable Freeland. 76. Sorry. With that, I do have Madam Chair Charles Newland and then Honorable Daniels in the queue. With that, Madam Chair Charles Newton, floor is yours.
Speaker, I can go ahead and go after Delegate Daniels to give him the opportunity to speak.
Okay. Honorable Daniels.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Arunana Kudokia. On that day, that is Kate, and as Marado Schnego or Kileho. Ea Honat Dali what the Schneider, Ea Honat every day should have me. Wait, what's on his vein at all? What's that? Oh, Corona, right? It's a layer. I think what other queries I think what your legislation could on mean so I don't know what your agents. I thought I know what I know Asia Yadaski. But what doesn't do I've been out in the field at the chapters. The Naabik'íyáti chapter, they were opened every day, Monday to Friday, even on weekends. They were there helping people. Naabik'íyáti chapter staff, chapter manager, the staff. What I see what the cases get when they were high at that they were there for the people. Arunana for Shanto as well, or Jato. I get that or the initial. This day they're still there. Because Arunana Kodo Lago Bahtai so see Kodo Nagata amendment she did Arulena is nonsense Kodo. Side on doll Fostana. Or so as the do even a nasty carson and the hotel. The Hashin for it in a Nash Nessigi Hashin for it or a hair win so a coto age or the Baladi Plecoto. Ye but Haya hot etolish. Ye net leadolish. Should ante equit ante we're still in this pandemic. They're still out there. Just know the a coco ar quego she dado ya have these have tweet delegate Elmer Begay a coffee edo dina. I know it was a lady horn just there. If you get them the hard machine te a co the president do it on a band that's case. I hit it na the hate other amendment ben na. What are the ben and what are you what ego it what it I call amendment bed the hand for the amendment the speed for the is in up at the honnet that so Charlie and you the Arunana Nanas what did had Charlie to Ajik and Hassad so the Quissy bed they now and yen a yeet it got now it comes later they'll be with it Nationalia Negita which is later there so yeah it's just all the national how year and days get down got even out of it but I call again Ashla I don't know the way how anal call da moda cargo I don't know how slego e cornana not no e call so what out of a car what can I do it army I hit no in hassis the ne without ich had what out hassis later that is so now about on his name we go in the hata tejo mata asa dan hata dan da hilse and I hil that's now that shot as hata shot what an hassis later according to any that creation of that you eat out as can I what the since it as better may go as hata shot but na kina khaida ani ande no da so hota da well season later hoti to yan later de khagi hoti da aba da honi na ho ko hot and the chokodo amendment joy kodo e joy ben an so kodo ko da ben so do e kodo na the region the chapters that I represent the was about the niche definitely even national handle for AIC but job instance do handle for Aroleba on share the picture Aroleba but what yeah here and dollars are you or that or do so na reda amendment so I could order to see could order or not deal could on reda special session to join special session I could critics coming away David Nahot the senior amendment to get us at that $8 go David Naabik'íyáti a co hot on the what did I don't know could also have been doing a great chapter staff AIC and for the economy and for the cardid chan for you about this case over so it is a from over half state or but I support the legislation with amendment could also add a last year other big at that or less I abonet now had abonet now a endorsement after that amendment at all yeah those I see but no not for that deal nature so it is about the Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. That we move on down. Back to Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. I think that we're all tired here, but we continue to advocate here. Delegate Freeland, again, I appreciate the intentions that you had in trying to figure out a way to get those who who didn't get just compensation to be compensated correctly. So, you know, I know that, you know, you did say take into consideration the staff's morale. What I'm taking into consideration is how the staff felt and would feel knowing that this money was meant for them, but then they don't get it. And that's really, I think, what we're trying to say is that we all want our staff, you know, the employees who are really out there, we want them to get this money. But what we're saying is, you know, you have missing documents. You have so far included in here political at-will employees and judges. And it just doesn't really make sense with your intent. And the staff morale, I mean, right now, I think that letting them know that this needs to be put together right. Otherwise, their morale is going to decrease if they find out that their supervisors are benefiting more from this than they are. And, you know, even Ms. Toddy stated that, you know, that they just put the numbers together without, you know, excluding the, you know, certain individuals who should be excluded from here. So, you know, I think making the argument that the morale is really low right now and that, you know, that we need to think about them. I think we are thinking about them as delegates, you know, we are thinking about them, but we're also being fair and we're thinking about the Navajo people's money. And we're being fair in that we're asking this question of how did you put this budget together? What did you take into consideration? What is the purpose of this legislation? And so I just want to state that, you know, with the morale of staff, you know, I in my opinion, the morale has always been low. Because we don't pay, the Navajo Nation does not pay our employees comparable salaries. And yet we talk about how we want our kids to go get educated and to come home. And then we don't make jobs available for them. We don't pay them what they should be getting paid. We don't offer any type of housing. We require them to drive long hours, you know, hundreds of miles to get to work. So I think that the morale has always been low. But at the same time, I think that, you know, if they know that we are working on it and that we are just wanting to be fair to those boots on the ground, again, for the employees who truly deserve this funding, then I think that, you know, that hope is going to still be there. At the, you know, but again, as I stated earlier, what I'm really worried about is giving more money to people who don't deserve it, and giving more money to our division directors who have probably, you know, have, if not all of them, but, you know, a majority of them have probably received thousands of dollars already. So in my opinion, I mean, I think that brings down the morale lower, knowing that we're going to be giving more money to people who really didn't deserve it. Whereas we can kind of step on the brakes here a little bit and we can say, okay, we're going to look at this legislation and we're going to create language that makes it fair so that the people who truly deserve this money get that money. And to me, I think that will boost morale, because they at least know that we are looking at it as elected officials. We understand and we know what they've gone through. We understand and we know what they've been put through. We understand and we know, you know, hearing from them, you know, directly with the stories that they shared with us. But, you know, to make the argument that the morale is low and that this is going to bring it down even more, I just have to say that I disagree with that. And again, as being a fiscal agent, our responsibility is to all Navajo people. And that responsibility means that, we take into consideration the funds that we're giving out and we ask those tough questions. And right now, even your agent was a little bit questionable in terms of this legislation. So Delegate Freeland, again, I'm going to make the motion when it gets to council to send it back to do, a work session. And really, as delegates, we all should be asking those questions. We all need to know how much money was given out for special duty pay and hazard pay. We all need to know which division directors paid themselves before they paid their employees. We all need to know the names and how much money was divvied out. And we all need to make it clear to all of the Navajo people that the elected officials did not receive any of those funds. And so I think that our Navajo people deserve to know that answer. And they certainly deserve to know that we as delegates are being fiscally responsible by getting this information, by sharing it with the people, and we're being transparent by doing that as well. And then, just giving it to them, let them decide, let them see, where that money went, and show them how their money was spent. Thank you, Speaker Damon, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. Let me go back to Honorable Freeland, sponsor of legislation. Honorable Freeland.
Speaker, the delegate get you.
Chairman Damon, put me in the queue. This is Vice Chair Smith.
Speaker, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Shanta. Thank you, colleagues, again, once more. So now, Honorable Herman Daniels, thank you for your comments as well and what you had spoke of. And, definitely appreciate Tubbican chapter working like many of our chapters during the pandemic. And we did see that with our own eyes and verified that, the staff was out there doing what they were doing in every fashion to help our people during the probably one of the most uncertain times in our history. And I just recall several occasions at the chapter level when being out there, hearing of potential exposures, or I myself had 36 COVID tests, I'll be honest, and thank goodness everyone to date has been negative. And if our chapters were risking, imagine our staff as well putting themselves in harm's way. And thank you to Tubbican chapter for them doing what they're doing. And in relation to the amendment that you spoke of, that's entirely up to you, brother, and that's your prerogative as well. And I just want to say that much to you. In regards to Honorable Charles Newton, once again, you mentioned earlier the judges, and I think this is the second or third time I've heard this as division directors, including everyone. And I mentioned that this was a mechanism to work out in a 3-tier system, yes, but it didn't work out that way. So, if there's an amendment that's going to be your prerogative again, that's entirely up to you and how you want to proceed it. Or if you want to look at a work session, that's entirely up to you. And yes, I am going to stick to the morale issue as well. I'm I'm even getting messages tonight as well. So just keep in mind the delicacy of the staff are listening to us in this discussion at this time. You know, I've already gotten some messages from some of the staff already thanking me for doing this, and they're giving me their examples as well. So we can agree or disagree. That's perfectly fine, colleagues. But let's just be aware of the delicacies of what we say and how we say it in front of our staff, especially because a lot of them went through a lot, and you know, some of them got COVID without a vaccine too. Remember, without a vaccine, and imagine having to endure that. And you know, I've heard from a lot of staff about this legislation. So I just want to be reminded of that and remind us of that. The staff is listening to us this evening. But with that, Speaker, that's my response at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll go back to the floor. I have Honorable Elmer Brigade, then Vice Chair Smith. Honorable Elmer Brigade, floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Know that I was waiting for your response on what I said, but this money, where it came from, basically, how people knows if you put your heart and your mind to that, basis in the legal. So in a lot of ways, be thankful. Myself, I'm like that. Even as a delegate, that I can sit on the floor and have elderly people sit on the chairs and things like that. They bite down this case and things like that. Go into a hall and sit on the at least this is how I am. So even in this case, I'm there for the people. I'm there to be honored and to be like that. In this case, this how I have feelings. People, I want them to be served first too. This case, I'm hoping, really hoping that all the tribal employees are listening. That on the Naabik'íyáti we're thinking about your morale. You're not kids. Hope you guys are all listening to me. You're the one that can come and sign up for looking for work. They never caught what's in the end. Like I said, that there are people that are out there, to provide goods and service to them. People that we're talking about, your morale. Look at the people. They've been promised with all these home repairs, electricity, water. But then that's about the what about them? Who's going to be concerned about morale of an employee? Whoever comes into this office, into this leadership, to think about us, to talk for us. To think about it. I don't know what your thought was when you were trying to ask you what was your main intent, what was your heart and mind. This is the money that we're talking about. Never caught over been yes in this. So think about it. After Snecko, they were talking about the morale of the employees. I thought indigenous. I don't know that they have benefits. Use it. They can go to hospital anywhere they want to. But people that are out there without unemployed, and they have one option is to go to IXS or go to the 638 hospital. So think about it. I'm really talking about these people. I'm my people over here. It's up on this case yet. The Baka Ij, the Hazda. Talking about morale, people that are being neglected, people that haven't been served yet. Asia. When it comes to election time, today. They're coming around. People are starting to come around. We see a lot of posters and no, that's why we're coming from that point. Speaker, so I want to say that again. Thank you.
Now we go on to Honorable Vice Chair Smith.
Yeah, Chair Damon. And good evening to everybody that's listening. I don't think we're getting anywhere with this. No amendments, and we're just lecturing the sponsor of this legislation. I can see what he's trying to do, and he's got a good heart and trying to help out by saying a cat. And now we're just starting to lecture him and chastising him. So I motion to table this, Speaker. Thank you.
Motion,
Wanika.
motion to table Vice Chair Smith. What is there a time frame and what is the reason why?
Motion to table this to the next NABI and to look at the amendments that some of the delegates were possibly wanting to propose. If there's any amendments, give them some time. So motion to table this to the next NABI.
There's a motion to table legislation 0076-22 and bring it back at the next Naabik'íyáti committee meeting, which would be June 23rd. And at that time, and the reason why is just for delegates to have possible amendments ready and available at that Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. So with that, there's a motion to table by Vice Chair Smith. Is there a second?
Second, Wanika.
Second by Honorable Wanika. That Honorable Freeland, you don't, we're not council, so there's no debate, and you don't get to get 3 minutes. So we're going straight to the board.
Do I get a question of privilege, or can I ask a question of privilege?
What is your question of privilege?
If it's a tabling motion, does it still move on to council if it's if council is final authority? That's my point of privilege. Thank you.
Your question of privilege, Honorable Freeland, since legislation 0076-22 is not final authority in Naabik'íyáti committee, that's up to you as a sponsor to request for this to be added on. If this does pass, to be put onto a special session or a next nomination council session, if there is one before June 23rd.
Thank you, Speaker.
That, colleagues, good board.
Question of privilege, Eugenio.
Chairman Henio, good evening. Question of privilege, floor is yours.
Chairman. Simple majority, or is this a 16-vote legislation?
Chairman Henio, this legislation is simple majority at council. That, good board.
Honorable Elmer Begay, how do you vote?
I will agree.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Kialan Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Kialan Begay. Honorable Kialan Begay did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown
Honor-
votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canes Bacrati, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Canes Bacrati. Honorable Amber Canes Bacrati did not vote. Presiding Chair, Honorable Speaker Damon not voting. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote? Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Herman Daniels did not vote. Honorable Mark Freeland,
I
how
vote
do you
red.
vote?
I vote red.
Excuse me,
This is Daniel.
Honorable Herman Daniels votes red. Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote? Honorable Mark Freeland.
I vote red.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes red. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote? Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona did not vote. Honorable Jamie Henio, how do you vote?
And it votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henio votes green. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James votes green via text. Honorable Rick Nez is excused. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Red.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes red. Honorable Charlene So is excused. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote? Honorable
I
Daniel
vote
So.
green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, the trip.
Honorable Eugene So votes red. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker, how do you vote? Honorable Thomas Walker. Honorable Thomas Walker did not vote. Honorable Edison Juanica, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Edison Juanica votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable
Delegate
Jimmy,
Yellowhead, vote green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Kealan Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Kealan Begay. Honorable Kealan Begay did not vote. Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati. Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati did not vote. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker, how do you vote? Honorable Thomas Walker. Honorable Thomas Walker did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote. With that, Honorable Speaker, you have 12 delegates who voted in favor, 4 delegates who oppose, with presiding chair not voting.
Chairman Damon, Vice Chair Smith. Motion adjourned.
Thank you very much. With that, colleagues, 12 in favor, 4 opposed. Motion carries to table legislation 0076-22. That, Vice Chair Smith, motion to adjourn at
Second time.
11:02 p.m. This is the second by, was it second?
Second by Charles Newton.
Second by Madam Chair Charles Newton. That. There's no comments, questions. Let's go to the board.
Honorable Elmer Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not vote. Honorable Kealan Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Kealan Begay. Honorable Kealan Begay did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Delegate Paul Begay, vote green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes red.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes red. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati. Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati did not vote. Presiding Chair, Honorable Speaker Damon not voting. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Herman Daniels votes green. Honorable Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote?
I'll vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henio, how do you vote?
It was green.
Honorable Jamie Henio votes green. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James votes green via text. Honorable Rick Nez is excused. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So is excused. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
So
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker, how do you vote?
green.
Honorable Thomas Walker votes green. Honorable Edison Juanica, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Edison Juanica votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
Delegate Yellowhair votes green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Elmer Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not vote. Honorable Kialan Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Kialan Begay. Honorable Kialan Begay did not vote. Honorable Amber Canez Bacrati, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Canez Bacrati. Honorable Amber Canez Bacrati did not vote. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote. With that, Honorable Speaker, you have 15 delegates who vote in favor, 1 delegate who opposes, with presiding chair not voting.
Thank you very much. With that, colleagues, 15 in favor, 1 opposed. We're officially adjourned at 11:02 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone. Safe travels if you're on the road this evening or tomorrow. We'll see you when we see you. We're going it. Thank you, staff.
Oh, I can't.
Staff.